So today I'm going to be talking about gut issues. If you have bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, a ton, IBS label, IBD, then this video will be of help. I'm going to help you understand a lot of the physiology with gut issues, and then I'm going to be speaking on what are the things that you can start doing today, right now, to actually help with your gut issues. I'm also going to explain to you the common gut issues that I see, and then in just functional medicine that we see with many people that struggle with IBS, IBD, or some other type of chronic gut symptom. So the big thing is that your gut is like your second brain, meaning you have a neurotransmitter communication between your brain and your gut. Majority of your serotonin, around 90% of your serotonin, is housed in your gut. So if you have an altered gut, which many Americans do, then you have an altered serotonin reuptake issue. So this is why a lot of people with gut issues also get put on SSRIs, because there's a relationship there. So if you have a mental health issue, you most likely have a gut issue. Another thing that should be mentioned is about 70% of your immune cells are housed in your gut. So if you have altercations in the gut, then you're going to have an imbalanced immune system. So this is actually how a lot of autoimmune issues, autoimmune being where the immune system is mistakenly attacking the body, okay, in cases of immune system dysregulation from probably poor gut health, and that could be from that. So first things first is we're going to break down the gut issues into 4 categories. So you could have low diversity in your gut, or you could have trying to think off the top of my head here, low diversity or inflammation. So that's going to be the first. So this is very common. So this means that you have just inflammation in the gut, making your bowels irritable, so you can have an IBS label, or you can have low diversity, which is actually kind of common, but actually not really. And with low diversity, that means that you just don't have enough beneficial bacteria. Now, this could happen from rounds and rounds of antibiotics. So I've seen many people that have taken rounds of antibiotics, which has completely wiped out the microbiome, which the antibiotics, unfortunately, do more harm than good. Now, they can be life-saving, but most people, when they're continually taking them over the littlest things, like one flu or one cough or whatever, it completely destroys the microbiome. This then leaves them with low diversity, and it's clinically shown that the less diverse your gut microbiome is, the less unhealthy you are. People with cardiovascular disease, chronic just chronic health issues, rheumatoid arthritis, and these other conditions, they have low diversity in their gut. So it's clearly stated that the less diversity you have, the less diverse your gut microbiome is, the more unhealthy you are. So, like I said, that's really the first tier. Now, the second tier, which I see very, 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 very much, is leaky gut, and let's say digestive enzyme insufficiency. So that could be pancreatic enzymes, that could be hydrochloric acid insufficiency, so you don't have enough HCl, or it could be bile issues. So I'm just going to lump those in. So leaky gut, and then digestive enzyme insufficiency. So with leaky gut, it is a whole thing, but essentially you have a gut, one cell layer on your small intestine. So there's a gut lining, which is one cell layer thick, and it's on your gut, it's on your small intestine, and it pretty much helps with letting things that you need to excrete through your stool to not get into your bloodstream, and it lets things that don't need to get into your gut not in your gut. So think about it as just a good bridge fence. Now you can only imagine though, when it becomes permeable, so like a sponge is permeable, so it can leak through. When you squeeze a sponge, the water goes through it. So kind of like that happens with a leaky gut. It becomes permeable, porous. And now those things that you do not want to get into your bloodstream gets into your bloodstream. But not only that, we know that it can lead to neurological issues, brain fog, fatigue, and neuroinflammation, brain inflammation. But it can really cause a ton of food sensitivities. And that's really what I want to hone in on here. And what this means is that when you have a leaky gut and you have all these food sensitivities, no matter what food you eat, it's going to cause you to have immunological responses. So what that means is you're either going to have diarrhea, bloating, even acid reflux, heartburn, uh, even just constipation, bloating, obviously, diarrhea being the main one. Now, it's going to give you all these symptoms because your gut lining is not intact. So now the apple you ate doesn't actually get digested properly. A piece of the apple gets inside. And it sounds crazy, I know, but it's all very true. And this is what happens with a leaky gut. And then the second thing is the digestive enzyme insufficiency. Now, if you have your gallbladder removed, which majority of the people I work with do, you are not digesting your fat soluble nutrients adequately. So that means that your vitamins A, D, E, K are all malabsorbed. They're not getting properly absorbed. And it's because the pancreas releases bile when you digest fats or when you eat fats. So your gallbladder plays with that. So if you don't have a gallbladder, you can only imagine what happens then. You don't release enough bile. So what is another thing? Pancreatic insufficiency, which I see it all the time. This means that you don't release enough pancreatic enzymes. And this will lead you to malabsorption of amino acids. So this is actually how a lot of people have a lot of bone issues, low calcium and things like that, because they're not even digesting their proteins sufficiently. And then the last thing is hypochlorhydria. So this person might be dealing with low stomach acid. So that's just a whole topic in itself, talking about how acid reflux is majority of the time, 90% of the time, from too low of stomach acid. And there's usually a root cause to that. So usually it's H. pylori, which is a bacteria overgrowth. So these are going to be all things that are very common with individuals that have these chronic gut issues. And then the third is SIBO, which is probably the most common, and that's small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And that's when you can have an overgrowth of bacteria within your small intestine. So it sounds exactly as it sounds. And what happens is that food starts to ferment in your gut and gets into the small intestine. And then it will start to produce gas. And that gas is the pressure. That's how you have the abdominal pain. That's why you have the bloating, the constipation, and then even the diarrhea. So that's how a lot of people have a IBS label, but it's really SIBO. And actually 70%, I believe, of IBS cases are actually SIBO. Like, that's clinically true. And then the fourth tier of gut dysfunction is IBD. So this is ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, which I see a lot inside my coaching, because the conventional way is immunosuppressant drugs for the immune system, but that's still not correcting the root cause, obviously. So what are things that you can do about these issues? So I listed, these aren't all the issues that can happen with the gut, but it is the broad spectrum of that. So you got IBS. I'm very sorry to hear that, Garden. What I'd suggest is continue to watch this live. It probably will help, but then if you want actual guaranteed results, then I'd just send me a message, man. So with that being said, IBS, IBD, the first thing you have to do is we have a 5R process that we run inside of our program. Well, actually, the first thing you actually got to do is you got to test. I mean, we can't just be, guessing out here. We're not, we don't got an 8-ball and we're not going to shake it and just hope something changes, kind of like the same thing with, your health issue. You're not just going to wake up one day and it's not going to, change. It's the same thing. So with that being said, the first thing you got to do is actually test, because you got to figure out, what is truly going on with your gut. So this is actually why we like to run GI map tests. So this is a stool analysis. So yes, it takes a stool sample and it measures all types of things that are going on within the gut microbiome. How permeable, how your immune system is, how diverse your gut is, if there's opportunistic bacteria, if there's H. pylori, which 50% of the population has, if there's parasites, if there's worms, if there's viral infections, such as E. coli, things that most people don't even know about, which we solve. So that's why we actually uncover the root. So that's the first step, is doing like a test like that, so we can actually figure out what's really going on with your gut. Okay. Now after that, we want to use a 5R process. Okay. a 5-hour process to actually help with resolving your gut issues for good. And each phase of this process takes a specific amount of time depending on the individual and depending on the results, specifically on intake forms and specifically on uh, their GI map test or whatever gut test we use, because we can do a H. pylori breath test, or we can do a SIBO breath test. And then there's colonoscopies that you can do with your gastroenterologist, which we recommend for clients too as well. Their insurance will get that anyway too. So with that being said, the first step is you have to reduce. You have to reduce the things that are inflaming your gut, that is causing dysbiosis, is what it's called, overgrowth of bacteria, and different types of uh, issues to your gut. So this is things like you got to cut the alcohol for a little bit. You got to cut the gluten. You got to cut the dairy. You got to cut the corn, soy, vegetable oils, sugar, added sugar. I should say, I'm going to keep saying added sugar, because if I just say sugar, it's going to sound like you guys mean like I'm going to tell you to stop eating fruit, which is a whole different topic. But so added sugar, and then food preservatives, additives. These are going to be things you want to reduce. Now, after you've done that, you've probably helped improve the inflammatory response within inside your gut. So at that point in time, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use targeted supplements to help with the eradication process of removing the pathogenic bacteria that is sitting inside of your gut. Now, like I said, some people don't have this issue. Some people don't have a overgrowth of bacteria. Some people don't have candida or anything like that, which is very good. It could be the opposite for them. They could have just low diversity, but for majority of people, and if you have an IBS label, or if you've been struggling with chronic bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and it goes back and forth, most likely you are dealing with this overgrowth of bacteria. So at this point, you do want to use antimicrobial herbs, oregano oil, colloidal silver, grapeseed extract, berberine even. And then I have specific ones that I use that are proprietary, such as FC-Cytal, ADP, and these are things that my clients use because we get the results. So these are going to be the things that you want to use to eradicate this dysbiosis that is within inside your gut. But you cannot just be taking these herbs and not do whatever else I'm just saying. If you're going to take these herbs and continue to go out to eat and continue to have shots and continue to have desserts, it's not going to do anything. Promise you that. Now you just took supplements, you just wasted your time and money. This is how people go broke with getting their health right, because they need to make a whole change. You got to change everything. You're not just going to take one thing and then things are just going to get better. It has to be a radical shift. So, with that being said, while you're taking these antimicrobials, you have to follow the right eating patterns. Now, initially, you want to use some type of an elimination type diet. Yes, it may sound dogmatic, but I'm telling you, that's most likely what you're going to have to do to help lower that systemic inflammation that is already within inside your body that's suppressing your joints, but actually what's suppressing or what's inflaming the gut. So by eliminating the common food allergens, the common food intolerances, and perhaps common or not common, but higher FODMAP foods can dramatically improve the health of your gut. While doing that, that's when you can use the antimicrobial herbs, the ones that I'm talking about. So this is going to be the first two steps, no matter if you have leaky gut, because this is going to help with reducing the inflammation that could be breaking down your gut lining, no matter if you have poor digestive enzyme sufficiency, because majority of people are dealing with that issue because they have so much inflammation in their gut. No matter if you have IBD even, this is, no matter what gut issue you have, this is all going to be important. So with that being said, the third thing is you got to replace what's not there. And this is replacing with specific enzyme support. Now you can use different pancreatic enzymes to help with breaking down protein. You can use specific bile support supplements to help with supporting the nutrients, the nutrient absorption of fats. And then you can use I always get those two, hydrochloric acid to help with actually the digestive process with your esophagus, because your stomach acid is actually like your first line of defense when the food that you eat. So that's going to be the third. Now, the fourth is you're going to want to re-inoculate. So what that means is at that point, after you eradicated the dysbiosis, remove the inflammation, that is the point where you can help with bringing back good bacteria. This is when you can use a higher quality probiotic, have some fermented foods, bring back foods into the diet that were removed in the beginning initially, because remember, we didn't want to eat those in the beginning. We have to, troubleshoot things. So at that point, that's when you can bring back fermented foods to bring more diversity in your gut now. Since we've helped get rid of the overgrowth, we help keep it more stable. And then the last, which is the most important, you have to reseal / rebalance your gut. What this means is you have to support your gut lining. Now, this is actually something you have to do throughout the entirety of the process, but I cannot explain this whole thing in a live stream. But what I mean by that is you have to support your gut lining. Remember, most people deal with a leaky gut. So you have to use things to support that gut lining, and then you have to rebalance. And now remember, I could list supplements, slippery elm root, zinc carnosine, glutamine, aloe, marshmallow root, all these things, immunoglobulins, colostrum. These are going to be all things. But see, you're going to take these things and nothing's going to change because you got to make a whole lifestyle change. Not only that, but you actually got to fix the right thing. So this is why people are following all these health accounts and they're not getting better, because what they're doing is they're trying to pick things from each one. And that's exactly why it's not going to work. So that's going to be, I promise you, if you follow those 5 steps and it's the right way, you will heal. So not only that though, what's actually going to be the byproduct of that? Well, the byproduct is you're going to have more energy. You're going to have clearer skin. You're going to have better sex drive. You're going to lose the weight. You're not going to be dealing with brain fog, mental poor clarity. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get all those benefits because you just fixed the root cause, which was your poor gut health, which was the inflammation in your gut, the pathogens in your gut, the leaky gut. All these things were the true reason to why you were dealing with XYZ symptom / condition. Because with people with thyroid issues, essentially what I really like to do is sometimes, really we're just focusing on their gut. That's because it's shown specific enzyme overgrowths, Helicobacter pylori, even parasites and things like that are all associated with altered thyroid physiology in terms of cellular stress. So this is something called cell danger response, or just from slowed endocrine function. Now, let's talk about other things that are actually very crucial in the terms of healing your gut. So when you are focused on healing your gut, you're going to have to help other hormones and organ systems that influence the gut, because the gut is just one part. Now, your adrenal glands, your liver, and even your thyroid hormone, even though gut can impair your thyroid, it can be vice versa, because a lot of systems in your body, it's a negative feedback loop, meaning it speaks with each other. So if you have an altered gut, it will alter your thyroid. But if you have altered thyroid function, it will also alter your gut. And by doing so, how that happens is it slows down your gut motility. So what that means is that if you're dealing with, this is actually, you know this. I mean, you know this if you're watching this. You deal with constipation. So you deal with constipation and you're taking thyroid meds. So the reason is because your thyroid works with your gut. But your endocrinologist or gastroenterologist will never say anything like that. So that's why you have to support your thyroid when you're healing your gut. But then you also going to have to support your adrenal glands as well. Because if your body is dealing with high cortisol, it's not going to adequately help with the motility of your gut, so the movement of food throughout the digestive tract. So what we'll do, I'll talk about something real quick. So if you were dealing with high stress, or actually, let's back it up. During periods of when you don't eat, you have something called the migrating motor complex, MMC. Okay, and that's what's going to help with moving food throughout the digestive tract to go to where it needs to be. Now, you don't have that migrating motor complex, system going on with inside your gut when you are dealing with high stress, when you are dealing with altered thyroid physiology. So this is how you can get SIBO. So a lot of these things play with each other. So this is why when you initially start healing, it might seem like a lot because there's a lot of things going on. And remember, all these things are the true reason to why you look down at the number on the scale and it doesn't go anywhere. But I don't even want to talk about scale because majority of the time, a lot of people just read body comp. But that's a whole different story. So what we're getting at here, though, is that you need to support these other systems inside your body when you are healing your gut. So I think that should be pretty important to understand. Also, a big thing is parasites are a really big cause for people with gut issues. So we actually have a full moon coming up. So if you're waking up throughout the night these next few days, 100% you're dealing with parasites. And this isn't voodoo or voodoo science or anything like that. Like, this is legitimate. This is very legitimate. And so remember this, though. I want you to always remember this. Ayurvedic medicine, so the stuff that I'm talking about, has been around for thousands of years. Now, Western conventional medicine, your PhD doctor, that medicine has been around for only around, if not over 100 years, maybe 200 years actually. 200 years. Let's give that. We'll say 200 years. So 200 years, thousands of years. So remember that. So, and Western medicine is great, by the way. So incredible. It's life-saving. We need it, especially for acute care. But a lot of chronic health conditions, chronic health issues, meaning it's lasting for a long period of time, stem from, are really Western conventional medicine is bad at. Bad at in terms of they're not going to solve the root cause. They're trained in procedural and pharmaceutical approaches to healing and wellness. So if you found this video live stream helpful in helping your gut issues, then repost on your story, and I'll send you something maybe. But anyway, if you're looking to get to the root cause, I'll be here for you. We have Black Friday sale going on. We have I got free tests sending out and all other things, guaranteed. So, hope this helps.